ある限り君は Dream of Love 守り続けてゆく永遠に
Commander Class Magmatron. He's a juicy boy. Magmatron is Hasbro's latest addition to the Commander lineup, and he may already be my favourite.
The Transformers will return after these messages.
In this very stylish box, you'll get one crumpled man, one soft sword, a flurry of siege blast effects, and a sea snake's ass. Magmatron is paired up with one Magma Blade, two knockoff Dinobot swords, and a shield. Wait, that's a shield? Okay, moving on to the dinos. Landsaurus. I love Japanese robots. Landsaurus is the fella that makes up Magmatron's lower torso and right shoulder. Frankly, in Dino mode, he looks great, when you have him set up correctly. When you don't, you have a giant hollow spot, which kinda makes him look like a certain other figure. The T-Rex looking arms are constantly stuck at the 90-degree angle and only move like so. His legs can only pose a fair amount, but any movement breaks the sculpt. His head can move around, and the mouth can open. Oh, and his tail can move, which is quite nice. Another thing to note, the floppy sword from earlier can actually store in his tail, and gives it quite a nice rigid underbelly. The general sculpt of Orme is quite delectable and satisfies my craving for Barney the Transformer. It strays far away from a certain other prehistoric evil man, and I'm not talking about Uncle Jim.
Yes.
The paint job on him is fairly good, but lacks a splodge of white on his rump. Hang on, I can help with that. One issue I do have with this little fella is the fact that actually getting him into Dino mode can be a pain. This is largely because of the necessary step of shoving the sword contraption up his arse, which for whatever reason is a nuisance to do on my copy. Aside from that, he's great, and I actually prefer him to most vehicular alt modes.
Número 4. Sus fish.
Now, Kermit here is my favourite to transform. The way the two halves slide together is really satisfying, and the finished dino looks so silly. The neck is fairly poseable, pins and needles, and looks really charismatic when you get him in the pose you want. Plus, his little flippers have some movement too. If you couldn't tell, the fish becomes the arm and backpack of Magmatron. Side note, the back is a little egregious, but if you angle it right, it's manageable. Sculpt-wise, Ness is a pebble. If you've ever gone to the beach and taken a rock home, you'll love this guy. While there are a fair amount of panel lines and swollen lumps of joint plastic, the general blobby shape is well preserved. As for paint, there is a nice darker green patch on the back, with that annoyingly bad colour match square, and a bit of red on the inside of the mouth, just in case you weren't aware that this is Kermit if he drank mutant ooze. Oh, also the teeth are painted, and the eyes. Actually, there's quite a bit of paint. Skysaurus, or the giant bird lizard, is the simplest of the bunch. He's fairly well articulated and it's really fun to laugh at. He becomes the head and weird ear things of Magmatron. He can also do this. Oh, and you remember those swords from earlier? They attach to his wings here. I just love the sculpt of this one, as he has a giant beer belly and he owns it. He can stand fairly well and does look fairly imposing on a desk. Just like Barney, he has a nice lizardy texture and a decent paint job, with his eyes, beak and gnashes painted. Also his feet are painted. On top of that, the wings are made of a nice flexible plastic, so no need to worry about any trip to the ER. I was going to be serious during this segment, but I can't. This mode is the epitome of stupid, and everyone I've shown it to has loved it. This mode is ridiculous and looks surprisingly good in person. I know it looks like an orgy, my dad even said so, but get over yourself. This thing is stupid. Stupid good, and it looks great on a desk. I was so surprised by how good it looks, if you look at it from certain angles. Granted, this isn't the best mode, but this is an additional third bonus mode. So take it as that and you'll enjoy it.
Wow.
Just look at those succulent dino thighs wrapping around his fuck-off massive bulge. Look at those burly arms and gnarly pecs. Now I'm a sucker for a good head sculpt, and this one has got me suckling. The combined robot mode is a nicely articulated amalgamation of dinosaurs that brings together the best to form Magmatron. The lizardy skin from the Landsaurus really makes the legs pop, and they easily become one of my favourite parts of the figure. There is a really nice amount of paint on this figure too, which is unusual for Hasbro, but I'm not complaining. Fish and bird look good too, but nothing particularly special. Everything that's great about each dino mode is in the combined mode, and it makes for one solid figure. The central pillar of Magmatron is that gorgeous head sculpt and lovely torso piece. He's the perfect fusion of animal and machine, and I love it. I only really have two issues with this figure. The first is the fact that he's quite large and can be a little difficult to grip. Like sometimes you'll be handling him and something will flex when you did not expect it to. Where the arms pin into the torso, more specifically. My final issue is the backpack. It's a little large, but nothing major. And when you're looking front on, you can't see it. Oh dear, I forgot to do an articulation segment. Okay, so this guy is fairly well articulated. He's got the wings, so you can move them out of the way. His head is on a swivel, so there's no up and down. It's quite limited, honestly. You need to get these legs out to then be able to take it round further. This head can get in the way sometimes, and this head can get in the way. His arms probably could do a 360 if you wanted to do that for what they can, obviously. But once again, limited there. Double bend at the elbow. No kind of butterfly, which is a real shame. Wrist swivels, which is lovely. Finger, weird thumb. That's more for the Kaiju mode. Opening hand with the port staying in there. Ankle tilt. If you untab that bit, you'll get a foot rocker. Nice ratcheted knee. Ratcheted leg out there. Knee can go out to there. Hip skirts are up and down. Obviously out that way. You do have a waist swivel as long as it's not too... There you go. Nice waist swivel. And if you disconnect everything, you've got to be careful. You have an ab crunch too. Bit of a dodgy one, but it's still an ab crunch. But yeah, articulation of Magmatron. Editing Kian here. I've been watching the video back, and I noticed that I actually missed my third gripe with this figure, and that's hollowness. I understand there is a lot of plastic going on here, but there is still quite a lot of hollow space. I mean, the hip skirts on the combined mode are a bit in your face, and the hollow neck parts on Seasaurus is, you know, them two are the worst offenders. But if you overlook them, then you'll still enjoy this figure. In conclusione, Magmatron is brilliant. He's something completely different to all the other commanders, and I could actually see him fitting in better with the Victory HasLabs. But maybe that's just my love of Japanese Transformers talking. Each dinosaur feels great to play with and have a decent amount of posability. The range of accessories is nice, and the combined mode packs a hefty punch, not only in your wallet, but in your heart. I'd give this guy 10 pickled Oreos out of 3 Flubber DVDs.